I think we're live right now.
Okay.
Let me just get chat going. And then do social media.
Let me know when you tweet, and I'll
Send out or retweet it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still hasn't kind of popped up yet. Usually takes a couple minutes to get going. Taking its sweet time as usual.
What's taking forever? Like, what are you trying to do?
Usually it, like, kind of pops up like on the channel page, like we're live, like that, and then I can just go into it and see it. So I can get the link. But yeah.
Here, I have it.
You have the link?
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you. Yeah.
Cool.
I can.
Okay, I tweeted it out.
Should be good.
Yeah, there we go.
So what have you watched lately, Dan? Like, where are you in your rewatch?
So
Anything stand out?
I'm winding down on Voyager. Just started season 7. Well, not just started, but in the beginnings of season 7.
Yeah.
Just finished Flesh and Blood. There's a couple episodes that I really liked. That being, what was it, Body and Soul, or
Yeah.
with the Doctor and
Yeah.
709 and
Yeah. Body and Soul's great.
yeah. Drive, when that was the one that Lana and Tom get hitched, that was cringeworthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of like uncomfortable, awkward, like kind of false feeling, you know, fake dramatic tension.
Where are you?
Yeah, definitely not a fave.
Where are you in your rewatch?
I watched a couple in the last couple days. In season 2 of Voyager, and I'm in season 4 of Deep Space Nine. But I watched the 2 episodes I watched in the last couple days were my first 2 in like 18 days, from being on vacation and getting settled in before I got back, right after I got back.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in a little bit of a Trek dry spell.
Slump.
A major slump.
Yeah.
So I watched Investigations on Thursday night, which is kind of like the culmination of the, Tom Paris is like a rebel, not behaving, but it's like designed to smoke out the Maquis traitor. I guess they don't know he was a Maquis at the time. Ends up being Jonas, communicating with Seska and the Kazon. Like that whole thing kind of culminates in this episode, and it's Neelix has like a morning show on Voyager that he's doing. I don't know. I think it's kind of weak. It's not. I love those storylines. I love the way that they slowly build up the Tom misbehaving thing, and that they slowly build up that there's this traitor on the ship who's kind of up to no good with Kazon. But I don't know. That device just kind of rubs me the wrong way. Out of nowhere, Neelix decides to be like hardcore journalist, and so not huge on that one.
Yeah, is that the one where he leaves the ship?
Yeah, Tom leaves the ship.
Yeah. I kind of like that though, because he you think I don't know, maybe I was just oblivious, but I thought it was real, and then he was actually kind of like a double agent. So. Yeah.
I mean, they really do a nice job in that run of episodes of like selling that, Tom is not happy on the ship, and it's believable because of his background. Like it is well done.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I like that storyline as a whole. I like the idea behind it more than I like and it's not so much the Tom Paris part of it, I guess, that bothers me about the episode. One of my favorite podcasts is Mission Log, really Roddenberry podcast, where they go through one episode at a time and like really dissect. And I remember when they were in TOS, they're in like towards the end of TNG now. They used to talk about the gumbification of specifically McCoy in TOS. Like they would say, like in episode here, episode there, they would like kind of change McCoy's traits just enough to like make him fit the situation in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And like Neelix in this episode feels like a gumbification. Like they kind of just pull out of nowhere that he's going to be like interested in journalism now, and he's going to do this show, and he's like walking around like getting advice from people about what a good journalist does, and like they don't do anything with it later on. I think they might reference it once down the road at some point, but that kind of just never works for me, and it's just like there's silly stuff in it to me. Like there's one point where Neelix is in engineering and he's like looking at the like the transmission logs, seeing trying to figure out like what's going on. There's like missing transmissions, and Jonas is like behind him. He's got like a laser scalpel, and he's like ready to kill him.
Yeah.
I'm like, is he really going to kill him in the middle of engineering? Like that's going to solve all his problems. Like
no one notices him just sitting there. It's like
yeah, it's just kind of
Yeah.
kind of silly, kind of over the top.
Yeah.
But it's got its moments. It's not, there's some funny stuff with the Doctor trying to get on the silly morning show, and like you said, the Paris stuff is well done. I think it's really well sold over a period of episodes. Voyager gets a lot of flack for like not being serialized, and it's not in a lot of places. But that's an example where it was. They started laying the seeds for that, and they're referencing things from like 6-7 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Like going back to, there was an episode like a long time ago, not a long time ago, but a handful of episodes ago, where he was like taking bets in the mess or in the holodeck, like on silly stuff like what the warp antimatter balance would be for the end of the day. Like he had a pool running, and Chakotay got all upset. Like they're referencing all these things that he's been doing in the last handful of episodes that has like led up to this point. So it's really cool to see Voyager like delve into that. It's really well done. I don't know. I guess I just wish that it was ended in a little bit of a more creative, interesting way. But then I watched Deadlock last night, which I love. I think is awesome. Really nice balance of action, adventure, and cool character development for Janeway. Cool science fiction concept. It's kind of like everything Voyager tries to be.
Yeah.
Like wrapped up into one really well done hour.
Yeah, two Kesses in one sick bay though. It's,
two Kesses. If you're a Kes fan, that's
hard to deal with for sure.
It is. Yeah. This is true. If you like Kes, it's a good episode for you. Twice the fun. But it definitely strikes me as I'm going through Voyager again, and I know you and I have talked about this. Kes is definitely like the weak link to me of just the show in general. I think she's, and maybe of the franchise in general. Kes is just never fully comes to life for me. I just never. I mean, I have issues, but I don't want to get too into them now. But it looks like we have our first question, but I think before we do that, Dan, do you want to like introduce the kind of idea behind today's episode and kind of open us up officially, I guess?
Okay. I guess we can do it officially. Start. All right, guys, welcome back to episode 7. We're back live. Before you ask any questions, like, you guys aren't crazy. It is episode 7. 6 is rendering as we speak. It'll be up today for sure. So we didn't mess up on the numberings. So you guys aren't going crazy. Today is the episode we're like dedicating to you guys. You guys are taking the helm, so to speak, asking the questions. Ask us anything. It can be about life. It can be about film. It can be about Star Trek. It can be an answer to life. Whatever.
We'll do our best.
We'll do our best to try to answer all your guys' questions. I guess, we can get started.
Yeah, we just want to, because we haven't been live for a couple of weeks, we want to use it as, a chance to catch up and give, like Dan said, give you guys the helm, let you guys kind of drive the discussion. We'll talk about anything. If you want to get to know us better, we'll be happy to talk about anything, Star Trek related or not. But we do have our first question from Ian, and it's directed at you, Dan. He's asking, why don't you like Kes?
Okay. That's a good first question for sure. I don't know. I think it just never really clicked with her. I didn't like. I don't know. I just didn't like how she fit into Voyager. I don't think she fit very well. I think there's other things they could have done, and just her as an actor and her, I don't know. I'm not saying she's a bad actor, but I don't know. I didn't particularly
care for the performance.
And her interaction with Neelix is, I don't know, it seems a little forced. Yeah, so I don't know. I've never really liked Kes. I don't know. Yeah, that's I
Yeah,
guess those are just my few thoughts on Kes, I guess.
we have Hope chiming in with her brain can't quite figure out her and Neelix being a thing. That's my big thing with Kes. Kes to me is, uh, I guess, kind of a missed opportunity. I think it's an interesting idea to have a character who only lives 9 years and has a completely different lifespan like that. Like that's neat, I guess, on paper. Um, they don't really do much with it, and on top of that, um, I just the Neelix Kes thing just does not work for me at all. It's maybe it's me just not being able to get beyond, you know, the societal norms in my head, but just this seemingly middle-aged Talaxian guy with this 1-year-old, which would I guess equate to like a teenager in Ocampa age. Um, just makes my skin crawl. Like it just doesn't do anything for me. And I think of episodes, and I know Ian, I know you're a fan of Twisted, if I remember correctly. But episodes like that kind of focus on the Neelix Kes dynamic and Tom Paris involved too. Like it just doesn't work for
Yeah,
me.
it doesn't work for me either.
I think it brings the show to like a screeching halt when that stuff gets explored, unfortunately. And it's not like I'm not a huge, I wasn't a huge fan of Jennifer Lean's performance like Dan. I don't think she's why she is. I don't think she's. I don't want to say she's bad. The character's really thin on paper, but she's certainly, I think, the weak link of the cast. I think Ethan Phillips does a nice job with some tough material.
Yeah, Hope said that she was kind of a missed opportunity, as best as you
Mhm.
described her. I think you could describe Voyager in itself as a missed opportunity, but yeah, definitely Kes. I think it could have been a lot better than it was. For sure.
Right. Yeah, I think Voyager is certainly kind of hindered by a lot of that. There's a lot of meat left on the bones, and this is coming from somebody that loves Voyager. I really do.
Yeah, I love Voyager too.
But it's kind of littered with some things that I think could have been done a little better. Things that are kind of half baked, and kind of going back to Neelix.
What's up?
I see Rob saying poor Neelix. Neelix, I think, comes to life a little bit more when Kes leaves. I think Neelix is better when she's not kind of anchoring him down. I think he kind of grows into a little more of a real, well-realized character when they're not tying him to that dynamic, that storyline. So,
yeah, I think Adam had a question up at the top, maybe.
Which character from any series would you want to be stuck with? You on a deserted island? What do you think, Dan?
That's a tough question. I would want like a resourceful character because obviously, I don't know if you want to stay there forever or it's a tough one. I don't know. I probably Tom Paris or Trip probably just because those are one of my favorite characters and I feel like they're resourceful and
Trip especially
could survive, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my brain immediately goes to like the super smart characters, Spock, Data, Dax, people who have lots of experience, lots of 7 of 9, not necessarily for the reasons that people would call obvious, but they are people who they're characters who I think would probably be best suited to handle these, on your own difficult circumstances, stranded on a planet stuff. Adam, what about you? Who's yours? Like, who do you? And anybody else out there? All these questions are for you too. If you want to share your character on a, you'd want to be stuck on a desert island with, or on a desert planet with. We're definitely curious to hear your take. What else do we have here? Ian. Ian used to agree, but going back, I think she fit well with Voyager. In the beginning, she was young yet so wise, which comes through. Yeah, I mean, no disrespect, man. There's no wrong answers. As friend of the show, Enterprise Extra likes to say. Idic is our theme here. Let's see. Rob's asking, why does Voyager get so much criticism?
I don't know. I love Voyager. I think people are so quick to jump to conclusions and rag on it when it isn't. It's one of my favorites. I mean, we've kind of discussed this already in our favorites, but I think it's wrongly criticized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that I catch myself doing, and that I know a lot of people, I guess, do. I just did it myself. Like when we talk about like meat left on the bones and unrealized potential. Like I think a lot of people do tend to criticize Voyager for, I don't know, things that it's not. Instead of judging it on its merits and talking about what it was, they talk about what it could have been. And on its own merits, it's a good show. It's a good, mid-90s, science fiction show. It's a good Star Trek show. But I think what happens a lot of the time is people think of that premise and what today's television style sensibilities would do with it. If Voyager was made today, it would I think look more like Battlestar Galactica. Like ragtag group of people stuck out in space, trying to get from one point to another. Darker, serialized. People love that show, and I do too. But I think people compare it to what TV of today would do with it. When in reality, I think just the TV environment of the mid-90s just wasn't going to do that. They weren't going to have, even Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine is certainly more serialized than Voyager. It's episodic as well. I mean, it's not like one single continuing story throughout the entire thing. I mean, it's there's overarching themes. There are multiple episodes that do kind of run together. But TV in the 90s just wasn't doing what TV of today does. So, yeah, so I do think it's unfair. I think I love Voyager. Every time I go to it, every time I watch it, I kind of fall in love with it all over again. I love the characters. I love the vast majority of the cast. Really all the cast. Besides cast. I think the show really hits on all cylinders on a more consistent basis when, that transition happens. And I don't know, maybe that's unfair to say too. I think right around that same point in time, that's season 3 into season 4, Deep Space Nine, TNG kind of hit that same stride at that point. So, maybe it's a coincidence that when Kes leaves the show, it kind of kicks it up a notch. Develop her a tiny bit, yeah. Scrolling up a little bit, I'm seeing Hope make a point that the Doctor may have helped Kes develop a tiny little bit. I think Kes's dynamic with the Doctor is certainly stronger than her dynamic with anybody else, including Neelix, for sure. Her strongest. When I think of Kes, and I try to think of something positive with Kes, and I don't think either one of us want to make this the Kes show, but it's an interesting topic because it's a character that doesn't get a lot of play, and when she does, it is largely negative. So it's an interesting thing to talk about. But when I think of Kes in a positive light, what does come to mind for me is like her helping the Doctor fully realize himself, and mature and become the person that he becomes throughout the show. I think Kes did bring him along in a lot of ways. In like early season 1, she's kind of the first person to see him as a person, and treat him like a person. So I guess that's when Kes is at her best. And as Voyager went on, into season 2, into season 3, that storyline for the Doctor kind of tapers down a little bit, and he is more treated as an equal, at a certain point, and so that kind of goes away. And I think when that kind of goes away, and maybe they pulled back on the Neelix Kes stuff, Kes is kind of just sitting in the corner and not doing much, and that certainly didn't do her any favors either. They couldn't find anything for her to do beyond um, you know, those couple of things that they had set up initially. Um, let's see, what else do we have here? Looks like Adam's choices for who to be stuck on a desert planet, desert island with, whether Trip or Chief O'Brien. Resourceful and decent personalities.
Yeah.
Hope says Spock. Ian says Janeway. She'll cut off her own hair and start a fire. She can do that. She does do that in a very similar circumstance. Let's see. What are you saying, Dan?
No. So
back.
there's a new guy. Was it Grimslayer? I just welcome him to the Trek Live community for sure. But Jordan was like, they're kind of talking about asking personal questions, and Jordan was like, if you wanted my social security number, all you had to do was ask.
Let's see.
Yeah, Grim, it's okay. You don't have to have seen the movies. You can definitely stick around. It's not like there's no.
Feel free.
There's no required text for this podcast.
No. Ian makes a really good point going back a little bit. He says he likes how Voyager is. It was running at the same time as DS9, so it was nice to have a different tone. That I totally do. I see that. That's a really good point. You know, they were running at the same time, and you know, they did need to kind of maintain a different feel. So that's a really good point. I at the time I did watch both shows together. Like I was around and conscious enough to follow along with that, and it certainly was noticeable. Like they were two very different shows, and they needed to be. I mean, you don't want two of the exact same thing running. And I think that may have added to some of the pressure that Voyager had with you know, not going super serialized. They kind of knew Deep Space Nine was toying with that and had that kind of style that they were dabbling with, and you know, Voyager I think definitely did kind of make a conscious decision to try to recapture, you know, what worked best in TNG. You know, I think they were trying to appeal to the people that, you know, weren't high on Deep Space Nine. As TNG is going off the air, you know, it's not on a spaceship, all the different criticisms that Deep Space Nine was hit with early on. Voyager was trying to, you know, give the fans who rejected Deep Space Nine and loved TNG a place to go.
Yeah, so Rob's asking kind of a very specific question. Best intelligence service. Most deadly, most effective. Section 31, Tal Shiar, Obsidian Order. What do you think?
It's a good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
I'm tempted to say the Obsidian Order just because we've seen the most of the Obsidian Order.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, although I'm thinking of the two-parter in Deep Space Nine where they basically, well, the Obsidian Order and the Tal Shiar both basically get obliterated in, you know, an attempt to topple the Dominion. So I don't know how effective either one of them ended up being.
Yeah.
They kind of both got sucked into a trap and got wiped out. Where Section 31 didn't, I guess.
Yeah.
But the Obsidian Order has a pretty well-established history and pretty well-developed. So I guess I'll go with them. They're pretty ruthless. The Cardassians are known for their no-holds-barred approach to, you know, getting information out of people when they want it. And yeah, so what do you think, Dan? You have a?
I would have to say
the Obsidian Order.
Yeah, because I don't know. It's kind of my most. I think I like that that group the most, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
and I like the episodes that are kind of surrounded with that. So, um, yeah, I have to go with that. Uh,
Yeah.
let's see.
I see a really good question from Jordan.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah, what real life event do you think impacted Star Trek the most? Um, have any thoughts, Dan?
Um, impacted the most. Yeah, I might have to think about that. Do you have any like first offhand?
Uh, the end of the Cold War is an obvious one for sure. With Star Trek Six is very steeped in that. Um, 9/11 completely kind of changes the course of Enterprise. With season 3 and the Xindi stuff is very much like a response to that. Um, Vietnam is certainly really present in TNG or in TOS. I'm sorry. Um, most impacted, I guess I would say the Cold War in general, because TOS is like consistently kind of commenting on, um, you know, having exchange of information and communicating with people, not shutting off our enemies. I guess the Klingons are a constant stand-in for the Russians, the Soviets at the time. So I guess I would say the Cold War in general, just because it's so present throughout that entire series. 9/11 kind of came at the tail end of Star Trek being on a weekly basis. So I just don't think it had the time to kind of chart a course for Star Trek in a long-term basis. It certainly did for a season.
Yeah, and I think I mean, just in general, like our society does have, like, it affects Star Trek, and there's stuff in Star Trek
Mhm.
that's implicated or themes that they explore. So it's not like they're totally two different. They have interacted with each other. So I don't know.
Yeah,
It's cool to see that when they choose to do that.
and there's so many like I guess rather than like thinking of specific events like that, it's more of I guess the issues of the day. When Star Trek works best, I think it's tackling um, obviously societal issues.
Hmm.
Um, Political issues can work, but political issues tend to I think age poorly. I guess
Hmm.
more than like overall. Like I don't know. There's certain things that I think are so steeped in like today or at the time that I think don't necessarily play as well over the long haul. I think some of the best TOS episodes, especially, are talking about topics that are more timeless than like a specific event,
Hmm.
um, societal, you know, challenges, I guess. Um, but what do you think, Jordan? Do you have a specific? Unless you answered already, and I'm behind. Um, let's see. Let me see. Um, what from Star Trek? Ian is asking. What from Star Trek do you think has impacted real life the most? Um,
I mean, I feel like I always hear like those people that work at NASA are always like
mm,
inspired by Star Trek, like exploration, stuff like that, for sure. Um, I don't know.
yeah, technology in general. Hope just said.
Technology, yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of undeniable that the technology scene in Star Trek has kind of inspired um, what's come years after. There's that meme, I guess, or picture that goes on Twitter all the time that you see, or on Facebook with like all the images from Star Trek next to years later the image in real life of the device,
Yeah.
the cell phone and the
iPad,
communicator and
stuff like that,
the
yeah.
iPad with the pad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Google Glass with the
Yeah.
Gemidar or Dominion view screen
Yeah.
headset thing.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just, I think technology is definitely kind of chasing Star Trek in a lot of ways. Technological advancement. Um, What about the element of it that has impacted you most personally? It's a good question, Ian.
That is tough. What element?
Uh, I don't know. Star Trek for me, like I kind of talked about this initially, like in the first episode. But for me, Star Trek's kind of been there since I was like, a kid, like a baby, really. So it kind of shaped my whole kind of worldview in a lot of ways. Um, when I in learning how to interact with people, either at work or at school or um, friends, family, like a lot of it is kind of seen through the scope of how the characters in Star Trek act. It's kind of for some people it might be silly to hear somebody say that about a TV show, but these characters are sort of designed to be like the best versions of ourselves. And as a kid, it definitely resonated a lot. And I would be lying if I said that I didn't try to model myself in a lot of ways after those characters. Just in terms of how I handle people, like how I interact with people, new people that I come into contact with at a place like my job, like I said. So I guess it's kind of a broad answer, but the way people handle each other and treat each other in Star Trek, I guess, would be what immediately comes to mind. What about you, Dan?
It's kind of the same thing. Like I treat like if I meet a new person or hear someone's opinion or hear their beliefs, I'm kind of treating it like a first contact. Like you're learning as much as you can about it, but you're also respecting, their views and that person and stuff like that. So I don't know. I just just respecting just other people's beliefs and respecting I don't know, other people for sure that are different from me, obviously, and also just kind of a sense of exploration. I've always been a curious person, so I really do like that about Star Trek.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Jordan's referencing Homefront and Paradise Lost, which I just recently watched, and I totally agree, are awesome. Seem like post 9/11 reactionary episodes and See Your Eyes that came 5 years prior. Yeah, those episodes work best in today's day and age for sure. Those are the kinds of episodes that Star Trek gets lucky sometimes with tackling issues that may not have been, or maybe were prevalent at the time in a different way, but through the course of history have become even more in the spotlight, even more relevant in day-to-day life in later years. And all of a sudden an episode that's may have seemed dated or not as relevant anymore is like right back at the forefront of like, wow, this is this could have been made yesterday.
Yeah.
And those two episodes definitely stand out for that. They very, very you could certainly convince somebody that didn't know that those episodes were done in 1996, that you could tell them that. I think if somebody didn't know any better, you could say these episodes were made in 2003, 2004, and they would totally pass as legitimate like possibilities for that, because they are so steeped in that those sorts of issues. Jordan also says every time he steps into a hospital, he's reminded of track automated doors, wall-based life support scanners. Yeah, it's amazing when you think about it. When you really like take a step back and look at technology and what we have today, and think about what especially TOS was like trying to depict in the mid 1960s, late 1960s. It's pretty amazing. A lot of these things that we kind of take for granted today, that are kind of maybe seen as quaint in TOS, were incredibly ahead of their time. And yeah, TOS is. I stand by my opinion that I said in I think episode 2 in our favorites that TOS is my favorite of the shows because it's just so incredibly ahead of its time, and it did. And I don't know. I just get it has a unique charm to it, and yeah, those sorts of things when I watch it, when I really get into it, and I take episodes of, like, in chunks, and I watch a lot of it and really get steeped in it. Those are the kinds of things that really strike me as revolutionary for that show.
Yeah.
I think the more you think about it, the more it's very inspiring to track one way or another. Yep, I hope we agree with that. I agree with that. Technology it's kind of inarguable, I think, that our technology is inspired by Trek, either directly or indirectly. Yep. Jordan, I can't wait for tricorders either. They could do anything. Whatever you need them to do, they'll do.
Yeah. Yes. Star Trek gives me hope for what our world can be. Yeah, that was an excellent point. We might be having an episode on that down the road.
Yeah, we've been talking about possibilities to kind of explore those kinds of ideas. But yeah, that's to me, that's what Star Trek is in a nutshell. Really, it is all about hope. Unlike a lot of science fiction, there's a lot of really good TV out there that's not really optimistic in any way. It's about our worst selves. It's about how bad things could be, how bad we can be to each other. And Star Trek kind of boldly goes the other way and takes the complete opposite approach. It's about how good we can be. If we're just good to each other, like what we can accomplish. Another question for Discovery. Jordan's asking, for Discovery, would you guys rather see TOS era accurate tech or possible future-based tech based off of recent advances, which wouldn't be comparable with canon TOS Trek? That is an interesting question.
I would like I would like to see it as canon as possible.
Yeah.
So
it's a tricky thing. It's certainly more important to me for the show, for Discovery, to feel like Star Trek to its core, like in its storytelling and what it's trying to say. And I want it to feel in keeping with TOS. I don't want it to just completely disregard canon and what things look like in the past. But I think there's a medium there where you can kind of push the envelope a little bit. You can take advantage of today's production values to spruce things up a little bit.
I mean, look at the Kelvin timeline. Like,
yeah,
you would almost argue that the Kelvin timeline feels more futuristic than, say, like Voyager or something like that.
It does. Yeah. It does. And to be honest, it really doesn't bother me. Like I've said this before to people. Somebody put it. I can't remember who it was, but I'm going to paraphrase and basically say that, when you watch something like TOS, it's almost equivalent to watching like a stage production. Like when I put myself in TOS, that's kind of what I try to look at it like. I try not to take the sets and the production values necessarily literally. It's like I said, you're looking at like a stage production. Some of it is it's minimalist. It's designed so that, maybe not intentionally, but because it's 50 years old and it's not up to today's production standards. I treat it like, hey, I'm going to fill in the gaps in my head a little bit. Maybe there's a little more to it than what I'm seeing. It's just what the production can do. So if I keep that in my head and I treat TOS that way, I'm okay with things like the Kelvin timeline and like Discovery, maybe pushing the envelope with the look of things. But at the same time, I don't want them. I can't sit here and say that I wouldn't react negatively if they completely threw it away, and just completely went in a different direction and just said, to heck with canon. We're just gonna, make things look like there's no history to this, and it's just going to be its own thing. Like I wouldn't be thrilled with that at all. I wouldn't be happy. I think the challenge is to kind of walk that line, to respect what's come before. Suspension of disbelief, Adam, is the theater term. I think I'm hitting it. Yeah, that's Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Um,
Yeah. The way that I look at it is that
mhm,
I would like to see it as canon as possible, but at the end of the day, it's like the story is king, and everything
mhm,
else,
exactly.
everything the sets, they serve the story. As long as the story is good,
Mhm.
everything else,
And
is
it's
kind of
Star Trek.
fine. And
Like
it's
the
Star Trek,
stories.
yeah.
Yeah. Like I'll take every single day of the week. I'll take some spruced up production values that maybe
Exactly.
are a little tough to see the connection. I'll take that if the story is Trek and the show at its heart is Trek. I'll take that any day over.
Hmm.
It looks like TOS, but it's not. Doesn't feel like Star Trek in any way other than the production aspect of it. Um, so I guess it's a tricky thing. It's hard to say, and I guess I'm just open minded to it. I'm curious to see what they do with it in Discovery. Enterprise takes a lot of heat for a lot of those same types of things. Some people, look at Enterprise and say, I just can't get over it. It looks like our future, not TOS's past. Um, and to me, like that's where I kind of come in with the suspension of disbelief thing. I guess for me to accept Enterprise at the time, I kind of came up with that and bought into what I had heard. Somebody else put it as um, like I said, TOS. You have to kind of look at it like a stage play. Um, it's minimalist, and it's up to you to think about it and suspend your disbelief, as Adam put it.
Yeah.
I feel like getting the right feel is more important than the exact canonical details, but there was a right and wrong way of doing it. Exactly, Jordan. That's exactly right. As long as their heart's in the right place and you can tell when you're looking at it, this is Star Trek. You can see where they're coming from. It in the grand scheme of things, it sort of fits. I'm down. I'm cool with it. Um, Ian's asking, how would we feel if they went with a completely retro direction, where it looks like TOS with sets and props? Would people accept that? Um,
I
what do you
I
think, Dan?
I think just I don't know from the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going that way. Um, but at the same time, I don't mind retro like you guys were saying. It's
Mm-hmm.
you know it's I
I
guess it's
think
all about for the story with me and just having like something that I can see that ties itself um, to the canon would be fine. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if they came out and showed the sets and it was like a totally retro throwback to TOS, I would probably love it. At least part of me would love it. I would,
Yeah.
but that's me. I'm somebody who's watched TOS since I was a baby, and I totally accept it. I completely love it. Um, but I don't necessarily think that that's going to work on, the 16-year-old kid who's never really watched Star Trek before.
Mm-hmm.
Just coming into it dry and stumbles into it. I don't necessarily. I can see where that would maybe not work for them. Um, so I guess it depends on what you're going for. If you just want to please people like me, that's a safe way to go. Something like a fan production, like Star Trek Continues, can do that because Star Trek Continues is squarely aimed at people who are in my wheelhouse. Like people who just live and breathe it. It's not aimed even a little bit at people who don't already love Star Trek. So it's just a different.
Yeah.
So I guess my true answer to that would be, I guess at the end of the day, I wouldn't be real thrilled because it would be, I think, constricting new fans from maybe having an access level point to it where they could, dive in and maybe have an easy time falling in love with it. Like I want new fans to find it, just in doing this for the last 6 weeks or however long we've been doing it, 7 weeks, obviously in talking to Dan and other guys who were in this chat, the fact that people found Star Trek through Star Trek '09 and the Kelvin timeline tells you that that's good. I mean, that's what we need. We need more people to find Star Trek through Discovery, like people found it through 09. If Star Trek's going to survive over
Pun
the long
intended.
term, that's yes,
Discovery.
Well,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Jordan says that he thinks the color theme should be retro, but he thinks we need more detail. I totally agree. I'd love to see a little bit more details and just like, and I guess
just take the same idea.
Yeah, and I guess part of there wasn't a lot of detail in TOS is because they didn't have the biggest budget in the world, obviously.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I'm sure they would have went more detailed, but
yeah,
60s television.
60s television, and they had no idea they were building a universe that was going to be built on for the next 50 years with more stuff. They were doing a TV show that was going to last however long it lasted. So yeah, I totally agree with that, Jordan. I think that's the way to go. Honestly, like take the same general idea but add detail to it. Make it a little more lively. Build on what was done. I think that's probably the easy answer to make as many people happy as possible. I guess we'll have to see if that's what they end up doing. Hope's asking.
Yeah, you can read it.
I can't remember if it was ever discussed, but what is your favorite Star Trek movie overall? We did talk about it in a previous episode, but we're happy to talk about it again. My personal favorite is Star Trek II. For all the well-documented reasons that everybody else says Star Trek II, why everybody else says Star Trek II.
That's my favorite too.
Yeah,
Rathacon.
Boring answer, but it's the truth for us. Star Trek 4 is awesome. Star Trek 4 is my second favorite. That would be number 2 on my list. Jordan says 6. 6 is up there for me too.
So
Jordan's asking.
Yeah, Jordan.
Go ahead.
Jordan's asking, would you guys accept TNG, DS9, and Voyager they getting their special effects redone? Not just ship effects, but for all effects. Yeah, again, I don't know. I don't think it needs to be, because I think they're fine. There's a few moments in Voyager and Enterprise you're like, but I mean it's
early CGI.
Yeah, I think it's passable.
TNG I think really kind of holds up well for the most part. I don't know what more could be done there. But I think you hit the nail right on the head, Dan. I think like late Voyager, early Enterprise, all of Enterprise really, because it's like dabbling in early CGI.
Yeah.
There's stuff in there. Somebody's tweeting their way through. There's a Twitter user who's tweeting their way through Enterprise right now, and he takes screenshots and posts them and talks about the episode he's watching. And he just posted a screenshot last night or this morning on an episode. And talked specifically about like a shot where it's like completely green screen, it's all CG, like 2 actors surrounded by nothing but CG, and it is like that is a shot that could desperately stand for like a complete just redo. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's needed now. I think maybe years down the road, like TOS got to do. I'd certainly be maybe open to it. But I can't sit here and say that I feel like, I'm waiting on bated breath for those shows to get that kind of treatment.
No.
I'd gladly settle for DS9 and Voyager Blu-rays. That would make my year. That's for sure. But maybe eventually.
Talking about generations. Sore subject there.
It is for a certain someone I know. Let me say that title. Let's see. Ian's talking about his favorite TOS film goes back and forth between The Search for Spock and The Final Frontier. TNG is between Insurrection and Generations. Kelvin 09. Can't rank them against a different cast. Interesting. Yeah, Ian, I would love to hear your take on a couple of those things. I
Yeah,
would
me
love to
too.
hear
I'm
your
right
love.
there with you.
Final Frontier love, I'm always fascinated by. Uh, Insurrection love is curious to me. I'd love to hear the reasoning. Um,
No comment on that.
um, some of your other shows, like Search for Spock, I'll defend that till my dying day. I love the Search for Spock. Unlike some, for nostalgic reasons, I am kind of fond of Generations. I know it really doesn't make sense. It doesn't hold up very well, but there are things about it that I love. So I can get that. I can get behind Generations to a certain extent. And 09 is obviously, awesome for what it is. I love 09. But please share your love of the Final Frontier. I especially. I love hearing those takes. Hope says she'll be forever salty about Kirk and Generations. Maybe someday she'll get over it and like it more. But for now, blah.
I think a lot of people feel that way too.
Yeah, a lot of people are with you there, Hope. It's a common criticism. Adam says he has a special love for First Contact for whatever reason. There's lots of reasons to love First Contact, Adam. No shame there. Jordan says conceptually Generations is great, but it loses me in the details. How the heck does an old bird of prey take down the D?
I know.
It's kind of silly.
Yeah.
We've talked about this, Jordan and I. Yeah, it's just kind of lazy. It's just, it's clearly like, to me, they're just kind of trying to get to a place. They're checking boxes, trying to get to a point where they can get rid of the D. And they kind of took the lazy way out. The Nexus, for me, the problem with Generations is more broadly like the Nexus. The Nexus just doesn't really work for me. It looks cool. Like, the best thing about it is the look of it. I think it's beautiful. I think it's really like a neat visual effect. But the idea of it just doesn't really hold up to scrutiny for me. Like, the more I think about it, the more frustrated I get, and the more I'm like, this doesn't work, and kind of like toss it aside a little bit. Ian says he thinks it's really fun. Has some great cinematography, talking about the Final Frontier, and above all, has the best representation of the trio. Bond of those three is fantastic, and it's so prevalent in that film. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the Final Frontier like many do. It's towards the bottom of my list of the movies. I'm not a fan of it per se, but it has some really. To me, it has some really nice moments with those three actors, those three characters. It does take really good nice advantage of the trio. It doesn't split them off. They're all together. They're, but I don't know that it carries the day.
Yeah, Jordan's talking about the campfire scene in that movie.
Has a unique charm to it.
Yeah.
Isn't present in the other films. Dan, what is your like? I don't know how recently you've seen 5, but like when somebody says the Final Frontier to you, what do you say? Like, what do you think of? Curious. I don't think we've ever really talked about it specifically.
I don't know. I don't know. Kind of bringing this, into the sports side. You know how like a really good player will kind of stay in the league for too long, like Michael Jordan with the Wizards, or
yes,
stuff like that. It's like, yeah, it's there, but I think it's time to hang it up. I don't know. I agree with you guys. There's like stuff that that I like, and there's stuff that I don't particularly care for.
There's plenty of that.
Yeah.
For me.
So
I guess like something that when I watch the TOS movies in sequence, especially if I watch 5 and 6 together,
yeah,
specific, Um, something that always stands out to me is 5 makes a really big effort to like make these older characters seem like they're not old, like they're young, they're like swashbuckling, they're off on an adventure. Like even like the makeup kind of like is designed, I think, to like make them, specifically Kirk and maybe Spock, like they're trying not to play up the fact that these guys are aging. They're just out having an adventure. And when you go into 6, like they are embracing the fact that these guys are up against it. They're done. Like they're on their last legs in their career. And the story needs that. Like that's what the story's kind of about. These older guys these older characters that are overcoming their prejudice and overcoming their preconceptions about the Klingons and the state of affairs in the galaxy, and like just compared to each other. I just so much appreciate I appreciate the Undiscovered Country's approach way more than the Final Frontier approach. Like embrace the fact that these actors are aging and the characters are aging, and tell an interesting story that takes advantage of that. Don't hide it, like 5 tries to do, I guess. Just. Adam says the campfire scene just feels awkward to him for whatever reason. Yeah, I mean, I can kind of take it or leave it. There's some, I laugh a couple times in it, I guess, whenever I watch it. There's lines that are kind of goofy and make me laugh. Ian says the Undiscovered Country is his least favorite of the TOS movies.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I like it too.
Yeah.
Dan, you're going to learn that Ian has very interesting, really cool, different opinions. Nothing wrong with them at all. Like,
okay.
They're always well-founded. He has really good reasoning behind a lot of them. And I love hearing them because they make me think.
I don't want to turn away people's opinions like that. I just I like to stir the pot a little bit.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I want to hear, like, it really is like fascinating to me. Like, because I've been a fan for so long and I've had like these opinions for such a long time. I love hearing contrarian takes. I like hearing people say, I don't really think that. I think the opposite. I don't like this episode, but I like that one. Ian always kind of opens my eyes with those kinds of takes, I guess.
Yeah, because I think we all need experiences like that, because we do get in a kind of a rut. It's kind of nice to experience new opinions for sure.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah,
that's why we're doing this, right?
Like, exactly.
That's exactly. Easy thing to do is to just watch it yourself and have your own opinions and not be curious about what other people think. But we're both in this position because we're curious about how other people feel.
Yeah. So maybe a few final questions, and then we kind of want to get into some announcements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If that sounds good.
Yeah, if you guys have anything you want to talk about in the next couple minutes, hit us up. We'll certainly stick around for a little bit longer. Yeah. In the meantime, Dan, do you want to talk about maybe one of our announcements, just to maybe give people time to think something up, or kill 2 birds with 1 stone?
So, is this about next week or about
either one?
Kind of next week's episode, or kind of our.
Let's talk about next week's episode.
Okay, next week's episode is about the finales. I have a huge bone to pick with, the creators of TV in general about ending a show. So I'm really excited to talk about the finales in Star Trek, and we might kind of dabble into other TV shows and stuff like that and how they end and stuff like that. So I'm really excited about next week's episode for sure, which is going to be live.
Yes, I'm excited too. I've never really, I have, but like, I'm interested to talk about like them each and kind of compare them, the strengths of each. What works so well about a certain one. That I'm sure we're all kind of on the same page. I would imagine is like the strongest of them, and I don't know. There a lot of them. Well, like these are the Voyagers from Enterprise. Obviously, is like a really unique topic unto itself, and end game for Voyager is controversial. Like there's interesting stuff to tackle there. And Dan, you're on track to be looking to finish Voyager probably in like the next week or so. So timing couldn't be better for you to have maybe some fresh takes on Endgame.
Yeah.
How Voyager kind of gets wrapped up, and it should be good. There's a lot to talk about. Like you said, TV finales in general. Like you can't talk about Star Trek finales without maybe talking about TV shows ending in general, like alongside. What shows have ended well, what shows have ended poorly, the challenges of doing it well. It's bigger than just Star Trek.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So Jordan has a good question. What episode do you guys feel is the biggest wasted opportunity? It's hard to do episodes.
I know.
Because I think, you could say seasons. Series in general. Movies, yeah.
I'm going to cheat and say it's not an episode, it's a movie. I'm going to say Nemesis is the biggest missed opportunity. I think Nemesis is a huge swing and a miss to like wrap up not just TNG, but because of how everything worked out, it ended up kind of wrapping up the 24th century. We haven't been back there. We don't really know, other than like things alluded to through 2009 and things that set 2009 up. Just a completely, to me at least, unsatisfying, like weak ending to not just a series, but like an era of Star Trek.
Yeah, mine is. This will kind of tie into next week, but Endgame for sure for me. I hate to keep bringing back Voyager, but Endgame for me, I think is. Yep.
Yeah, that's up there for me. And I'm sure, like you said, we'll be touching on that next week.
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan, no, I'm not huge on sad Picard plotting around the neutral zone. No, I mean. Nemesis is just like such a lifeless, like slog of a movie to me. And you love Nemesis too. You never cease to amaze. Really interesting. Yeah. You need to write a book, Ian, about your like a chapter on each of these opinions. Like articulate them. I would certainly buy your book. It would have a prominent place on my shelf. Ian wants to know, who are we outside of Star Trek? What do we do? What are we working towards? Goals, etc. Like personal-wise, like what do we do? I'll say that I work for local government. I work in my county's courthouse. I'll say that. And I work with, I work in the criminal justice field. I'll say that. I'm not a police officer, but that's all I'll say about that. And what are we working towards? I am happy doing what I'm doing. My goal right now is to keep doing this and make it as good as it can be, and keep finding new reasons to love Star Trek. Like, it is my leveling force in life, and this is doing wonders for me. Keeping my fuel fired and, finding new reasons to keep coming back to it. What about you, Dan? What do you want to share?
Yeah, I could share a little bit. So I don't know as far as you guys, like if you kept up on Twitter and stuff like that, but I just graduated from college in my undergrad. Um,
Congratulations
yeah,
again.
thank you. So um, it was I guess I'll just kind of be as broad as possible. But I got a film degree. It's kind of concentrated in animation and visual effects. So I'm gonna be definitely going into that field um, uh, here pretty soon. Um, yeah, and
Lucky.
yeah. So I'm excited. As far as I don't know, yeah, as far as this show goes, my goal is just kind of just grow the community here at Trek Live, and because I'm not looking to get big subscriber numbers or something like that. I just want to have a good conversation about Star Trek. So
Hmm.
that's a way we can do this, which also in turn, just like Bill said, helps me grow my love for the Star Trek. So I'm excited about it for sure. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so you want to tackle this as the last question, Dan?
Yeah. Yep.
What are your other favorite franchises? You first.
Um, so believe it or not, I'm also a big sitcom guy. So I watch a lot of sitcoms. I know you guys can roast me in the comments, but so I love Friends. I love How I Met Your Mother. I like New Girl. And um, rules to engage for engagement. I don't know. I can't remember, but I also like Battlestar Galactica a lot. That's probably up there with Star Trek for sure.
Yeah,
Battlestar
me too.
Galactica is, yeah, really up there, really far up there for me too. What about you?
Uh, I'm not great with franchises. I like Star Wars. I'm not like a super fan by any means. I enjoy it. When new stuff comes out, I tend to like it. Um, I follow it to a certain extent. Um, I love Battlestar Galactica, like you said. That would probably be if we're talking like science fiction outside of Star Trek. That's my clear like number two, like knocking on Star Trek's door maybe a little bit. Not like it's nowhere near the long-standing love or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
I can go back to Battlestar Galactica largely the same way that I can go back to Star Trek. Like I continually go back to it and watch it again, here and
Yeah,
there. Yes, it's rewatchable to me in a way that Star Trek also obviously is. Um,
yeah.
outside of science fiction, go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Hope's like wanted to get into Battlestar but hasn't. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes.
Yeah, it's worth a shot for sure. It's darker than Star Trek. Obviously, if you've heard anything about it, you probably know that it goes to some really dark places. It's very much a product of its time. Dan had asked, or not Dan, I'm sorry, Jordan asked about what events impacted Star Trek, and we talked a little bit about like 9/11 with um, like Enterprise at the end. Battlestar Galactica is completely steeped in like 9/11. You know, um, it's a 9/11 reaction in a lot of ways. Like it really capitalizes on the unfortunate byproduct of that event. It explores some uncomfortable territory and asks some tough questions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done by Ronald Moore, who wrote like 100 episodes of Star Trek and was like a major driving force behind TNG and DS9, wrote Generations, wrote First Contact. So there's some Star Trek cred behind it. And it's just great TV. Highly recommend it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're also talking about Stargate. Stargate is on the list, but there is so many. Just like Star Trek, there's so many episodes, so many shows that. No, but I'm excited to start it.
My confession is that I've never seen 1 minute of Stargate. I've never seen the movie. I've never seen any of the TV shows. So that's on like the list of some things that maybe I can tackle at some point, but I haven't gone there yet. Outside of science fiction, there's a list of TV shows. I love The Office. That's one that I always kind of go back to.
Yeah, I love The Office too.
I love The Sopranos. I love The West Wing. I love Mad Men. I love shows like that. So yeah, and I love film. One of the things Dan and I have in common is love of film in general.
Film.
So I spend a lot of time watching movies, more so than TV, outside of Star Trek and a handful of other shows. I need Stargate in my life, apparently. I'll get on it. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious about it. I've heard a lot about it. It's been recommended many times. So it's on the list. It'll happen at some point. Nope. I've never seen the movie. I don't know how, but I've never. Just never happened. Never got to it. Adam says it bugged him that SGU got canned right as it was getting good. Sounds like Enterprise to me. I don't know if I can take another one of those. My heart can take it. So maybe I should stay away. I don't know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So do we want to talk about our other little announcement? What we're kind of adding to our repertoire here?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
So, guys, we'd like to actually just kind of formally announce a new show coming to the Trek Live YouTube channel. It's going to be called Trek After Dark, and I'll kind of let Bill kind of explain what it's going to look like and stuff like that.
Yeah, so Trek After Dark is going to be, in a sense, kind of similar to what we did here today. The plan for Trek Live going forward is to be more focused, more specific topic ideas coming into it, kind of like we've done up to this point. And Trek After Dark is going to be much more of a laid-back atmosphere, more of a hangout than a sort of structured topic discussion that's going to be kind of like announced in advance. So it's going to be a live stream, kind of like this. It'll be on a weeknight, and then we're going to do our first one on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Pacific time. So we're hoping to delve into, we're going to try getting out there and doing some stuff on the weeknights, like in the middle of the week, seeing if that works for people any better than, the weekend. Maybe tap into some people that, are busy on the weekend, try to get out there at a different point in time during the week. But yeah, the idea is for it to be, I think, Dan, I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but you had said to me that it's like Trek Live kind of in its purest form.
Mm-hmm.
Trek Live in our minds is, we love all the podcasts that are out there, all the other YouTube channels that are out there, but this is a place where if it's working well and it's doing what it's designed to do, is a place for people to come and interact with other Star Trek fans, not just us, but, we're hoping that you meet people in the chat, expand your circle of people that you can talk Star Trek with. And Trek After Dark is designed to be a loose, relaxed hangout to talk about anything that's on your mind, Star Trek or not. The conversation can go anywhere.
Yeah, so up to this point, we've kind of been like the pilot season where we're just kind of testing this out, seeing, what works and stuff like that. So now after this final episode of the pilot season, we're gonna go kind of into deeper topics like Bill talked about in the main show. We'll talk about deeper topics, but also really hyper focused topics. But yeah, so now that we've kind of got past the pilot season, we've kind of got a little bit of experience. I've still got a lot more to learn, but
Absolutely.
We're trying to want to slowly, grow the Trek Live channel and community and stuff like that. So I hope Trek After Dark will just be another facet to that. So we're really super excited about Trek Live and Trek After Dark. So definitely get excited. Definitely, spread the word. Try to, help us grow the community, because you guys are really what makes Trek Live, fun and operate and stuff like that. You guys make Trek Live, so we're really thankful for you guys for sticking around and being
being here with us.
being here with us and being a part of this. So, yeah, we're just really excited.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having a setting where it can, like I said, kind of be like this, where we're kind of letting you guys drive it. We'll talk about whatever kind of comes into your heads, and hopefully it's an environment that lends itself to people meeting each other and building the community. That's the best way to put it, I guess.
Yeah, and we can always maybe just pop on an episode of something and kind of watch it all together. That's something that Trek After Dark could be too. Stuff like that. So
yeah, all kinds of things could happen with it. That's the idea, to be loose and like off the cuff, and if you're there, you're there. You get to experience it. It may or may not. I don't think we've decided completely yet. It may or may not be like recorded and posted as an episode. We'll see, but it's definitely going to be more relaxed, off the cuff. Jordan's asking about the Discovery episode.
That'll be out tonight or tomorrow. I think it finished rendering. Now I have to upload it for you guys.
Yep. So that'll be out soon. So that'll be like a little bonus. Yeah, we could all watch the Final Frontier together. Game to try to convert us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. There's no end to the possibilities. We could try anything. But that's what we're excited about. We're kind of excited to go into it and not have like a given mission to the episode, kind of like this was. This is kind of like, we're hoping this acts as like a tease to that. So you maybe have an idea of what that's going to be kind of like. Not coming in with any goal for that particular that hour or however long we're going to do it. It goes where it goes. Whoever's in there can kind of set the course for the time that we're doing it.
Moving forward, also I'm going to kind of update the graphics and stuff, so where I can try to get the chat on the screen, so you guys can be a part of the conversation that way too, for people who view it maybe later on down the road and stuff like that.
Like we try to, like I know I try, and I know Dan tries too, like to read your comment if we're responding to you. So we're hoping to get to a point where we have the chat on the screen, so it plays a little better in the playback. Look for that too at some point in the future.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank you guys for kind of bearing with us, especially with the pre-recorded stuff, because it was crazy, and the only thing that's really set up in my new place is my desk, and there's still a lot more I have to do, so kind of just bear with me in that aspect.
Yeah. We're very happy to be back live, that's for sure. We pre-recorded is fine for what it is, but it's not what we're in this for. So the more we can be live, the happier we'll be. So this was great, and glad to be back. Oops.
Yeah, so if you guys have any final questions, we can maybe just sign her off and see you guys on Twitter and stuff like that.
Yep. Well, thanks, Hope.
Yeah,
we appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's the idea. We want you to expand your like I said, your circle of people that you can talk about it with. Like that's the best thing that came out of me going on Twitter and doing that. Doing what I do on Twitter, like that was kind of like the first step towards this. I got to add some people to my circle, and it really fueled my love of Trek, like reinvigorated it. So trust me when I say it can only help you. It's going to make you love it that much more if you can share it with people who love it as much. So hopefully you stick with us and the community grows and that circle just continues to get wider and wider, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, Jordan, there is a lot of fans out there, so we're hoping to, bring them in and introduce them to the Trek Live community.
Well, no worries, Rob. You've been great. You're here, steadfast every week. Trust us, we know life gets in the way. The last 2 weeks can attest to that for us. Thanks, Oak. Appreciate that.
All right, guys. Well, it looks like we're gonna have to end the Trek Live transmission, but definitely this is not the end of the discussion. Definitely come over to Twitter or in the comments.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week for the finales.
Yep. Looking forward to it.